You're welcome once again to my channel, and today we'll be talking on Java Spring Boot and Spring Security. And in this tutorial, I will show you how to basically implement the Spring Security on your web project and how you can leverage some of the features Spring Security provide you. And this will be a kind of a very basic walkthrough on how you can implement that into your RESTful API web service. And I will explain some of the key configuration you need to do, some of the basic configuration you need to have, and how that can also fit in, how you can update that if you want to suit your project need. So for this project, we'll be creating just one service where we'll have a user sign up with a name, email, password, and a role. We'll put in the role of the user also, because on the Spring framework we'll be implementing some roles. We'll have some routes that a user can access, and they will have another route that is only accessible to anybody with an admin role. And we'll be storing that user information in MySQL database. So you need to have MySQL server running on your local machine, or if you don't have that, you can work with the MySQL, the Docker version, or if you have the cloud version, you also need to have that. So we'll be working with MySQL database. You can work with any of the SQL database. You can work with Postgres, you can work with Oracle, or any of the SQL database there. It doesn't really matter, because we'll be working with an ORM, that is Hibernate JPA, to perform our query. And so it doesn't really matter what database you're having. All you need to do is to set up the right database URL in your application, the resources folder, and the ORM will pick it from there and do every of the background work for you. So also we'll need to we'll be encrypting the user password in our database, because we'll use this Spring Security, the bcrypt encoder function that Spring Security provide for us to verify the user login details. So the user will be logging in with the email and the password, and then we'll use the Spring Security to validate who the user is and then authorize the user. So that is basically how the tutorial is going to look like, and we'll go. So just like I said, we'll basically be working with three major classes for Spring Security, and I'll tell you what each of these classes will actually get us. Now, one of the first class we'll be configuring or we'll be working on is the web security config class. You can give this any name, but basically what we'll be having in this class, will be having two Spring beans where we'll have our authentication provider, where we'll tell Spring what our authentication provider is. I'll be using the user details service, and then where we'll also be working with our config, where we'll have our configuration for each of the routes, the kind of user we want to permit, if we want to make some route accessible without the user having to log in, and those routes where we require the user to provide us their login credential before they access it. We'll have that in our config file, because by default what Spring Security does is it protects every of the routes in your project, and I believe it's very important. You want to allow some routes for the user, more especially the registration routes where the user can come in and register themselves. You will want to allow that accessible to all users without they necessarily logging in at first. So I will have that in our config class, and maybe the dashboard route or any of the route we want to protect, we can also put that on the Spring Security, and shortly we'll see how you can do that. And then we'll also need a user security service class. This is where we'll need to have a pin within of load user by username, and this class will basically be implementing the user details service that we have in our Spring security class that we are putting as one of our authentication provider, the user detail service. So we need to create a class that will implement that, and this class implement this user security services class implementing the user detail service will have a method of load user by username, and this method will return us a user detail service. Now that user detail service is an interface, and we will need to have a class that will implement the interface that will give us some of those information that this class will be returning, and that is what will lead us to the third class, which is custom user details, which is a class implementing the user detail interface. So here we'll have some basic method of get password, get username, we'll have some getters, basically, and then that will return. We'll also have some couple of other security check which will be getting from this class, but our major focus is on the user password, username, and the user authorities. So that is basically what we'll be implementing some security check on. So yeah, this is basically in summary what all of these classes will look like. And right now we'll go initialize our Spring Boot project. You can do that on your IntelliJ IDE, or if you have Eclipse, you can start up your Spring Boot project there, or if you want to go to the Spring Starter website online, then you can basically go there. So quickly, let's go to the Spring initializer website online, and then we'll start our Spring Boot project. We'll get all of the necessary dependencies we'll be needing, and we'll have it all there. So for this project, well, the project build tool, I want to go with Marvin for my project build tool, and then the language I want to work with is Java. And the group ID for this, I'll be using my domain name, which is com.soft, and then I'll give it the artifact of security. So that is basically it. For the description, I will say demo project for Spring Boot security. Okay, then for the Java version, I would love to leave it on version 17. So I want to work with the Spring Boot 2.7.15 for this demo, and I'll go ahead and add my dependencies. So since we'll be having some RESTful API, we want to bring up the Spring Web Starter project, which is this one right here. If you don't see that, you can type it on the search input box here. So I will need JPA, Hibernate JPA, the ORM I want to communicate with my database with. I will need my SQL driver as well. That's where we'll be persisting our data and storing user input information there. And lastly, let's get Spring security. So let me just search for security, and you can get this first one right here, which is the Spring security framework. So this is a dependency. So this is basically all the dependency we'll be working with. And lastly, we can get Lombok, so we can avoid writing to reduce our Borla code templates. Lombok will get us the getters and the setters and all args and the toString method. That library help us to reduce writing of the code to get that. So you can then go ahead and generate this project, and that will get us a zip file, and that which will be in our download folder, and I can go ahead and open it there, and I will expand this project. So this is the file in the download folder. Now I'll go right ahead and open my IntelliJ IDE and start my project. So that is basically it. In the next video tutorial, we'll start our Spring Boot project, and we'll implement the Spring security, we'll register user, and test our Spring Boot secured web project with Spring security. So thank you very much for sticking around. I'll see you in the next video section.